And he was like, well, what do you want? Like, what would you do if you had all that time after you traveled and after the novelty of the money wore off? What would you do with your time? And I was like, I think I'd write a book. I want to write a book. And he was like, that's backwards. Like, what are you trying to get to some certain point in life so you could do what you really want? Like, you can write a book now if you want. And for some reason, I was just mind blown by this. I was like, I can't write. Like, what? Like, can I? I don't know. Maybe I can.
Welcome to the Art to Heart podcast. My name is David Amore, and I'm a former corporate sales guy turned poet. And this is where we explore how finding your voice can help your path and your purpose find you. Whether you're currently in a career transition or can't wait to be in one, we learn how leaning into creative expression can be the missing key to transforming your life and the life around you. Have you ever read a book that changed your life? A book that ties together all of the threads that you've been chasing, and suddenly your life feels like there's some hope. What if you had a chance to meet the author of that book? And what if that author hosted a meeting so that like-minded people can get together and begin to create community? And what if that event was fucking awesome? That's how me and today's guest, Adam Avinas, met. We both read a book called The Third Door by Alex Banayan, and that completely changed our lives by helping us redefine what's possible in life for us. Adam and I met at last year's event in July 2022. Adam has lived in downtown Toronto for about 9 years and has a background in real estate. He has his business in the personal development space and is getting ready to launch an app this summer, and he's even finished writing his first book. He is a published poet and former poetry slam competitor and is coming up on his first year of sobriety. He is a daily meditator and a proud member of the 5 a.m. club. Like everyone else at the Third Door event where we met, we didn't really pull any punches with the questions we asked each other. Gone were the measuring stick trivial questions about how people made their money instead of asking about what filled them with life every day. And we keep that going in this episode. We talk about the idea of a resurrection of self and how empty Adam's life felt when he was only focused on chasing money. We talk about the life-changing power of finding a mentor and the power of asking questions instead of talking about yourself when you're meeting people. Then we dive deeper into Adam's sobriety and how learning to sit with his feelings instead of feeding his addictions helped him pursue his life purpose. We talk about our experiences with other addictions like food and weed and the power or demise that can come with the way we speak to ourselves. Other topics we discuss include embracing our softer side as men in a society that discourages us from doing so, the lack of support you might get when becoming sober, positive habits that Adam implemented to support his sobriety, how we put the wrong goals in front of our real desires and put off living our life and our dreams. Thank you all so much for being here, and let's jump in. How you doing today, Adam?
I'm good. I am present. I am happy to be on here. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, as you said too, we met at a Third Door event. For those listening, we connected instantly. It was pretty cool how we met, and at the talent show, I think we were the only two doing poetry or spoken word. So we instantly dove in. There was, no walls up, open hearts, open minds. We got to jam right into what, we wanted to talk about, no small talk. And that's how I like to do things. So
honestly, that was the most incredible thing about the event. And I think everyone who attended will agree that there were no walls with anyone. Like you all, no hold barred for questions for anyone, and everyone was game. And, I kind of mentioned it to the people there, but that was the event that really brought me back out of my shell. I was a hermit for so many years, and I didn't know that extroverted part of me was still in there. And everyone at this event really just dragged it out. And in a lot of ways, I met parts of myself that I thought I lost at that event. And so I've been in a very deep state of gratitude since then. And it's been almost 2 months now, but it feels like it's been 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like
I'm
a lifetime
so happy
ago.
to hear that. It sounds like a lot of people had that same kind of, resurrection of self, which is funny. Actually, that was one of the, the topics on one of the days there. But the same thing happened with me. I kind of, I guess everybody's vulnerability and openness. I really realized at that event that, it's okay to be myself. And, I wasn't having that ego take over. I wasn't, acting cool in any way that I would with those balls up. It was amazing. And I've carried that into my life going forward. So I'm really happy to hear that you had that, similar experience.
What have you carried from that event with you?
One of the biggest things was just, I feel like overall people value your vulnerability and just the ability to be yourself and, having no walls up, over valuing, certain things that we think people value, like some sort of validation we chase, right, in the world. I realized that, I'm not scared to say what's on my mind or be myself, whether, I used to be scared of being judged or, coming across as, kind of a softie, because I am a bit of a softie at the end of the day. But now I just like to let my heart shine. Like I'm totally okay with, talking about things that might be a little mushy or, performing poetry. Like, as actually that was the first time I performed poetry in like 6 years or some long time like that. And it was something that was such a big part of my life before. So it was really amazing to reconnect with that.
That was so cool to hear that weekend brought the poet back out of you.
Yeah, it really did. It did. It's amazing.
That was like the first time I embraced myself fully being a poet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like, all right, I'm going to go to this event with all these entrepreneurs and founders and super successful, super driven, ambitious people. And it's like, I really wanted to stick to my sales identity, because that was the thing like that would make me fit in, like, oh yeah, I work sales for this big company, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to say I'm a poet. And then I was just introducing everyone to myself as a poet. And, no one blinked. No one looked twice. No one was like, what's this dude doing? What are you talking about? And so I was like, these are my people. These are my people.
That is so cool. And that was another thing too, is I think people were really introducing themselves or opening up about who they were, not what they did for a living. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's the same thing with me. I'm in sales. I work in real estate for a big developer, but I wasn't coming in with that. I was coming in with, I'm recently sober. I, used to be a poet and I'm reconnecting with it. You know what I mean? Like these things that are so much deeper than, those labels we sometimes put on ourselves. So.
I think that was the key. There were so many people I connected with, and not once did I ask, how do you make your money? Like, what do you do for your job? It was pretty much the lead in was, what makes you come alive? Like, why are you here? Why are you breathing? And so anyways, so for anyone listening, find a book that you fucking love, that you get so much out of, and then hope to God that author organizes a meetup.
Yes.
Or you can just read the third door and come to our meetup next year. So at that event, we had a talent show, and you were very brave and busted out a poem that you had just written like that weekend. And I want to see if you wanted to open with that poem.
Yeah. Thank you. As we said, I used to do spoken word, and when it came to the talent show, which we knew that there was, I signed up immediately. I was, really excited. I wanted to be able to perform something for everybody. I went right back to my old poetry because I was like, I just want to reconnect with that part of me. I wasn't really sure. I looked at my poetry. I was like, this is not who I am today, like at all. These
Wow.
poems just do not reflect me. So I wrote one on the spot. It's pretty scary too. Presenting in front of all these people you just met. There was hundreds of people. And then there was the author of my favorite book in the world and his like mom and his family was there. And, I wrote this poem and I had only read over it maybe once. I didn't even edit it. I wanted to edit it and I was like, I don't have time for this. So it was just raw. It was as raw as it can be, years of no poetry, performing in front of all these people. And it was just like from the world to my head to my phone and out to everybody else. So that's
world
kind of how it went down.
Right on.
Yeah.
Have you edited it since, or is it still in that same raw form?
No, after I present like that, it is christened as that is the poem. There's no changing it. Yeah.
Wow. All right, man. Let's check it out.
I once heard that books contain magic that can transform your reality. I thought it meant that the book was the new world and I was the escapee. So I read books to escape my own world, each their own masterpiece. But little did I know that my own reality would change, and the book was the master key. One day I picked up a book, excited to see what new world was inside. A crazy tale was told of big dreams that filled my mind. I was used to 10 pages a day, but soon 100 had gone by. And I started to feel a shift. Maybe this book was actually my guide. So I continued to read, and to my own world, I would apply all of the lessons and stories from this incredibly smart guy. And just like that, a new world opened right before my eyes. My own reality had changed, as if the magic had worked on my mind. Doors started to open with opportunities of all kinds. I read more and more books to apply the magic inside. I held the master key to open all of the doors I could find. And to this day, that first book sits on my bedside as a shrine. So just know you're always one book away from your new life's design, one page away from finding your why, one sentence away from living aligned. Your new world is waiting for the magic to be applied.
New world is waiting. Oh, that was just as good as the first day I heard it, man. Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like Third Door is one of those first books that really captured you and just made you go on a binge reading.
Oh, big time. 100%. I was reading books in a different way before, I think. Not just like I say in the poem to escape and everything, but even the self-development books, like everything was kind of for the purpose of money for me. So, at its base, I was trying to become a better human and, upgrade my mindset so that I can upgrade my business and make more money. And that was kind of the theme in my life before. Everything, the root of all of it, the motivation was money, which is really no way to live. I'll tell you that right now. And I read that book and, it was about chasing your dreams, right? It was about, not going the path you're supposed to. And it just takes you on this incredible journey of, all of the rejection he faced and how many people thought he was crazy. And it just hit me in the heart in some weird way. And I just started reading books in a different way after that.
What was different about the way you read them?
The way I digested it, but also I think my motivations changed. So I wasn't reading books to upgrade my mind to make, to upgrade my business to make money anymore. I was reading books and understanding that they could affect more than just my income. I was reading books and understanding that, I could live a completely different life if I apply these books for what they are, and, apply them to my life without, other external factors. And it just started like this new journey of developing myself in a deeper way, I think.
How has your relationship changed to money since then?
It has changed big time. I'm not as impressed by money. I think that I value enjoyment a lot more. I enjoy and value the present moment a lot more. That's one of the biggest ones. I used to kind of push my life off to a future date. I used to say, I'm going to work really, really hard and make so much money. And once I can retire young, or, once I hit this threshold, then I can start writing books and, doing what I really love again. And I have a mentor, as you know, who came into my life recently, and he also kind of helped me just realizing that that's backwards.
Is this the mentor of your favorite author?
Yes, it is.
So
it is,
yeah,
exactly.
So if anyone doesn't know, in the book Third Door, Alex Banayan, he comes across a dream mentor of his, Elliot Bisnow, and Elliot Bisnow really opened a lot of the doors for Alex to help Alex change his life, and that Elliot Bisnow is the same person that Adam is now being mentored by. So just wanted to throw that in there. It's not just any mentor. All mentors are still valuable, but this is relevant to the Third Door. Anyways, go on.
Yeah. And Elliot, he really simplifies things. He's someone who lives in the magic of life, is what I always say. And he teaches other people how to simplify things and live in that magic. His motivations behind everything are enjoyment. He just wants to enjoy. If he's going to build a business, he wants to enjoy it. He doesn't care about money. He wants to enjoy it. He wants to have it make his life a great life. Otherwise, aside from money, he wants it to be fun. And if it's not, he won't do it. That's just, and it's incredible. And he's helped me in a lot of other ways. As you said in the intro, I'm sober. I don't know if I would be sober if it weren't for Elliot.
Oh, I did not know that. How long have you been working with Elliot?
I think it's been close to 6 months now.
Wow.
And I got sober only a month or so into working with him, a month or two. I'm not sure exactly, but
what about your experience with him helped you make that decision?
So the decision in my mind, I've been telling my fiance for 4 or 5 years, maybe longer, that I need to get sober. I was just a big party boy before. It's not like it was some crazy story, but it was really affecting my life for a long time. And I can really feel that I kept losing motivation, or I kept getting lost, and I kept hiding behind alcohol and marijuana for so many years. It was really affecting my life, and I knew it. And I told a lot of people, or I would be open about it to some people, about how I wanted to get sober. Every year I would basically take a 1 month detox.
Oh, wow.
And it was scary to push it any further than that. I would just say, you can do a month, you could do a month. So I'd do a month. And by the end of the month, every single year, I would say, I want to live like this. This is how I want to live. And I would start to tell people, and, some people would laugh at me. Some people would be like, good for you. But nothing really other than that.
Not a lot of authenticity from people. Or
yeah,
maybe that was their authenticity.
Exactly. Maybe it was. I don't think people took it seriously, or if they did, they didn't really care that I wanted to be sober. Maybe they thought it was something I'd never do. They knew me as the party boy. And even my fiance, when I would tell her, she'd be like, I'll support you if you do it. But I didn't know what support I needed. I didn't know how to do it still. And every year, sometimes I'd go, the month, and then I'd keep going for another 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Every single time, eventually I'd fall back into it. And when I read, so Elliot has a book, Make No Small Plans. It's another incredible book. If you haven't read it, or anyone listening hasn't read it, it's great. So in the book, it says that Elliot, doesn't really drink. He didn't have to get sober like I did. He just never really enjoyed it. He doesn't think that he needs the social lubricant, which I'm the same way. I'm very outgoing. I don't really need that. So I just kind of reached out to him. I already had him as a mentor at this time for a month, maybe 2 months. And I just reached out to him and said hey, Elliot, I'm thinking about getting sober. And, I saw in your book, or I've heard that, you don't really drink. I just wanted to see if there was more behind that we could talk about, or something like that. And the support I got from him, or the reaction, was something I'd never experienced before. I was sitting at my cottage about to eat dinner, and I just sent him a quick text, and then I went to start eating, and he started calling me like repeatedly, like over and over and over again, repeatedly. Like I wasn't answering because I was like with my grandmother and my family. I was about to eat a meal, and I was like,
oh, so you were there like actively declining the calls?
Yeah, I was there actively declining the calls. I was like, mouthful of food, talking to my grandma, and like was like pressing the hang up button, and then he'd call again, and I'd be like, why does he keep calling? He's really not like letting this go. So on like the third or fourth time, like I was declining them, and he was calling back immediately. Like he knew, and I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I clearly need to answer this. So I excused myself from the table, and this is how Elliot operates. Like things.
I was about to say that sounds like Elliot, that relentlessness from his books, from Alex says about him. Like he's gonna keep fucking going.
Exactly. Like he'll do what he wants, and he doesn't think like, oh, maybe he's eating. He's like, why isn't he answering me? Like, Adam, answer. So he kept calling me on the third or fourth or fifth time. I don't know how many times I declined. I was like, okay, like, I don't know what's going on, but he is serious. And like, he wasn't even texting me. He was just repeatedly calling. So I excused myself from the table. I was like, this guy's crazy. I excused myself from the table. I went, and it was a FaceTime. I took the FaceTime, and he just started drilling me with questions. And if you ever meet Elliot, this is another thing he does. He doesn't have any small talk. He wants to get right into things. Mm-hmm. It's incredible too. And he asks so many questions. It's amazing. Even he gave us a challenge to ask questions. 80% of the things we say should be questions, and where conversations go are whole other places when we're not focused on ourselves and we're asking questions. I suggest anyone listening, you have to try it at least 1 week. It was weird because it was simple, but a lot of our lives changed from that challenge. But anyways, just getting back to the story. So I went and I answered, and he was just drilling me with questions. He's like, why do you want to get sober? What is the motivation behind this? Like, have you ever considered this before? Have you ever talked to anyone who's sober? And I was like answering these questions. I was almost taken back. I was like, I don't know anybody who's sober. I've wanted to do this for years. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I just like thought that I might see if you had any insight. And he supported me, like I said, in a way I've never been supported. He reached out to friends of his, found a sober friend who was open to mentoring me. He gave me a bunch of tips and told me stories of how he's lived his life sober. He equipped me with a lot of tools right off the bat. And then he got people to mentor me who were able to mentor me. Because like I said, he didn't have to get sober like I did. It's a different process if you've always been sober. And then, there I am, and I have like the best accountability partner in the world and all of this support all of a sudden. I have, my mentor who's started checking in on me every other day. I have this other guy that he connected me with who, is this incredible human being. He had to get sober. He has a crazy story. He has a massive business in LA. He was doing weekly calls with me. I actually went and met him when I was in LA. And then this, huge support group started to grow, and he kept pushing it to be bigger. So, we have our small mentorship group, and he was like, you have to tell everybody. And I was like, what? He's like, you don't have to, but I think you should. He was like, they aren't like your best friends you grew up with where they have previous judgments of you, but you know them well enough where you can open up to them. So, I would
with the mentor group, with your mentor circle.
Yeah, with the mentor circle. So he mentors, I don't know what it is, maybe 8 of us. There's not a big group. And he was like, I really suggest you do it. They're like at the perfect length from you where they know you and they're open to hearing from you. They would be, supportive, but, they don't also have judgment from before. They don't know you from being a party boy. They don't know that side of you. So I opened up to them, and then, all of a sudden I had this huge support group that he had created, between him, all of our, people in our group, and then, an actual sponsor who had been through AA, who is now walking me through the 12 steps. So that was all because of Elliot, in my opinion.
Sounds like you got to be very careful what you ask him for help with.
Yeah, no, you don't, because if you're asking for help, it means you truly mean it. So
No, that's what I'm saying though. You got to make sure that's what you want before you ask.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%.
What you mentioned that it was scary to be sober for more than a month. What was scary about that?
There was a lot of situations where I wasn't used to dealing with them sober. And when I got sober, I realized it was a lot more than I thought. When I was happy and celebrating something, when I was really sad or depressed or confused, I used marijuana or alcohol to just escape my mind at the time. Social scenes were a huge one. Parties, I didn't know how to go to a party and not have like a drink in my hand. I was constantly drinking. And it was hard. There was a lot of scenarios. And when I would actually go for a month sober, I wasn't doing it properly. I was actually just hiding from the world. I wasn't going to parties. I was, just taking a month by myself to focus on myself and said no to plans. But that's not how, to do it. That's not the right way to do it if you're going to do it long term. So that all had to change. And I had to learn how to sit with my emotions. I had to learn how to go to social events. And, at first I didn't even know what to do with my hand. I'm telling you, I literally had to put my hands in my pocket because I didn't know what to do when I didn't have a drink to drink. So it was different for sure.
I got to commend you then, because when I first met you, like at that bonfire, you looked very in your element. This is going to sound bad, but it looked like you were missing a drink. Not that you needed it, but it's like, this dude's chilling. Like, why isn't he drinking? It's like, oh, he's chilling. you know? Because I remember we even went to you and I was like, hey, you want a drink? You're like, no, I'm cool. I'm cool. And I was like, oh shit, cool. And I was like, damn, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was only a couple months in at that point too. So I was like just learning how to be okay in those scenarios at that time.
What's the biggest thing that it's given you in your life?
One of the biggest things it's given me is time. I feel like time moves slower now. I feel like I'm present in every single moment rather than constantly running away from things. I was never allowing myself to be present because if I felt any way that I didn't really like, and it was a certain time of day where it's acceptable to drink or smoke, I would do it. And when you stop running from your demons and you face them, you become a different person. I don't know. I've faced everything in my life that I felt like I was running from for a very long time. So
what's the last thing you faced? Like, what's the most recent thing you faced or what you're facing now and trying to get through it?
So there's nothing right now, there's always something you're facing. But there was a lot of fear from different things. There was a lot of fear of, a lot of it again comes back to money. I really just wanted to make a certain amount of money and, I wanted to not just be comfortable. I wanted to thrive in a money sense. And I was ignoring every other part of myself just for that. And I think that there were things that I wanted to do in my life that would require stepping away from the high paying business that I was building at the time. That was taking up all my time. I used to work from like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And every moment I had, sometimes in between work, I was grabbing a beer. When I got home at night, I was smoking a joint. And then when I just had to sit there with my feelings and, really think about my life and what I wanted in my life, I realized that it wasn't the business I was building. It wasn't just money, but there was a lot of really meaningful things I wanted to do, like write a book, for example, which I'm just finishing now, and build a business that impacts people's lives in a different way. And it was the fear of having to leave the money, but that's something I'm now actively facing. So
I have one more question about money, and then I want to talk about your book. When you were always chasing the money, was there anything beyond that? Like, did you even have any specific plans of what to do with that money, or you just wanted to amass as much as you can and then decide?
It's a lot of what I'm doing now that I wanted to do. Travel. Seriously.
I think
Travel.
that deserves a closer look, or like a pause, because you're living the life now that you thought you needed all the money for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
It's so powerful. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if I wasn't sober. That's kind of what I was getting at. But yeah, I mean, and Elliot even helped me with that. You know, when we were on a call, he was like, you know, why do you want to make all this money to retire early? And I was like, so I could be free, so I could travel, so I could do what I want. And he was like, well, what do you want? Like, what would you do if you had all that time after you traveled and after the novelty of the money wore off? What would you do with your time? And I was like, I think I'd write a book. I want to write a book. And he was like, he's like, it's an end to a mean instead of a means to an end. You know, it's like, what are you trying to get to some certain point in life so you could do what you really want? Like, you can write a book now if you want. And for some reason, I was just mind blown by this. I was like, I can't write. What? Like, can I? I don't know. Maybe I can.
What's your book about? What are you writing about? And how far along in that process are you?
I'm like nearing the end chapters. I'm about 60,000 words in. I don't know how much I have to go, but it is kind of winding down at this point. So I'm getting really close. There was 2 books I always wanted to write, and I'm writing the first one, and I'll be writing the second one after. And they don't really have to do with each other, but I always really wanted to impact other people's lives. I always wanted to give some sort of piece of art or media, or be able to give a speech that people could take away, and just like, you know, certain literature, like we were talking about, has done in my life. I want someone to read it and be like, wow, like I've been thinking about things wrong, or, you know, wow, I really need to like implement or apply this. So the book I'm writing right now, just finishing, is it's like about a business that essentially changes the world. And throughout kind of the journey, it's a fiction book, a realistic fiction book.
Clarify. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's very similar to you know, like Robin Sharma's work, if you've ever read it, where
love him.
It's realistic fiction. He's my favorite. It's realistic fiction, and it takes you on a journey, and there's a whole story behind it. But while you're on, you know, going through this journey, it's a lot of self-development. There's a lot of realizations. There's a lot of, you know, deep life truths that, you know, the main character realizes throughout this. And, you know, it's about a business that changes the world, but it's kind of really about how the main character changes throughout the book is really the underlying message in it. So
I want to read that already. I love Robin Sharma's parable style of implementing lessons. They're so simple. He doesn't, like, what I love about the 5 a.m. club is he doesn't even give the characters names. It's like the artist and the entrepreneur, and that's it, you know? And that reminds me a lot of The Alchemist. I consider 5 a.m. club to be The Alchemist on steroids, because it's like, instead of just glossing like over the main points, it's like he dives into them completely and gives you very practical guidance on them. What's your second book about? And how did you, most people would, I imagine, go to nonfiction first. So like, what was your decision behind committing to fiction? And have you had any fiction writing or any other writing experience in your past?
Yeah. So, for the second part of the question, when I was really into poetry and really into writing, I was just so in love with creative writing. I used to not be into nonfiction at all. That was like the past couple of years that I got into that. But I used to read novels growing up, and I was so obsessed with them. I would just completely engulf myself in these stories and just go right into the world that they were in. And I wasn't a really big like video games kid growing up, which is pretty weird in today's day. I was more sports and books. So when I was into writer's craft, when I was in this class in high school, writer's craft, and I was finally able to express myself, I got really into creative writing of all kinds. Poetry was the main one, and the second one was writing fiction. And when I was in grade 12, I wrote the skeleton, I wouldn't say a book, but kind of like the skeleton of a novel that I thought I'd write one day. And I still have that today. I love reading over that. So, and kind of, building on that, going back to the first part of your question, that is really why I wanted to write this first book as a fiction book was, I figured I can kind of mesh two parts of my life that I love, which is, A, wanting to help people, teach people things, have someone be impacted in a very profound way. And then B, the creative side that I was reconnecting with. And if I could mesh those two and have people come on a journey where, they dive in and, it's those books where you don't want to stop reading it, just like the third door, it's a journey. So you just can't stop reading. You want to know what happens next. At the same time as, implementing a lot of self-development, a lot of really big life lessons that people can actually take and bring into their own life. If I could mesh those two, then that was like everything I could have wanted in the book. So
is this novel the skeleton that you wrote back in school?
No, it's not. So very similar to my poetry. I thought maybe I could, revive this book, and I went and read it, and it was just so far from something I would write today. I was very lost, and I was a lot darker back then. So it's no, it's not really anything like that, actually.
What's the are you able to share the name of the book yet?
So I don't technically have a name. The listeners here are hearing the first ideas, I guess, but I'm thinking about naming it The Business That Changed the World is what I'm thinking about, but okay. We'll see. It's not set in stone yet. So
the man behind the business that changed the world. No.
Yeah, there you go. You might have just named my book.
I royalties.
You heard it here first.
So I had a question earlier that I didn't get to ask. You had said previously that you're now like embracing. I'm putting this word there, but more soft. Does that sound right? Something you said?
Yeah, no, you were right. I said soft too.
Did you?
Softer
Okay.
Side. Yeah.
Yeah, softer side. And I'm the same. And so I wanted to ask you, what in your life helped you embrace that part of you instead of like, did you shut it away before? Would you shut that away with alcohol and with weed?
Yeah, I shut it away at a few different times in my life. And it's kind of emerged. And this time I don't think it's going away, but it really was the ego was kind of suffocating my real self. Kind of this mask that I put on for the world. I wanted to seem cool in people's eyes. I wanted to seem successful. I wanted, people to look at me a certain way that wasn't true to who I was. I was a very sensitive kid growing up, and that's just the truth. When I was young, I was into poetry from such a young age. Like I always loved it. And when I got into grade 12 and I had, this experience in this writer's craft class, and my teacher was like, you have to perform this poetry, you have to show the world, you have to apply to be in poetry books, you have to read a poem at our assembly. And I was like, what the hell? I cannot do that. What about my friends? They're going to think I'm a loser.
Damn, like that.
Yeah. And, there's a few times in my life that was one of them. I read a poem at one of our assemblies, and I thought my life was over because I was embracing myself for the first time. And I was prepared at that point to take the bullying and whatever came with it. But I was like, for the first time in my life, I was being empowered by someone else. They're saying, your poetry is good. You have to share it. Just share it. And I was lucky enough that I didn't have to go through the bullying. I shared it. And all my friends, the football players, everyone were coming up to me and they were like, wow, like that was really good, man. Like good for you if you like poetry. And I was like, really? Like that's okay? It's okay to like be soft and like
especially in high
poetry,
school.
Right? I know. I got pretty lucky, but that's kind of what led to, you know, getting into the spoken word. And then I was on the slam poetry at school and everything like that. So,
damn. And so you have a unique experience of stepping away from writing after writing becoming such an integral part of your life. What about writing wasn't serving you anymore? And I really want to get like not like a before and after, but like what's equally unique about your experience is that you also came back to writing after the absence. And so I think most people only have the experience of I've never written and now I write like me, or I used to write and now I never write. But the fact that it was introduced again, I think that's very unique. And so, just any thoughts around that to come up for you?
Yeah, definitely. It kind of goes back on what we were saying about my writing not reflecting who I was anymore. I stopped writing because I was focusing so much on reaching my goals in the material world that I wanted. So the money, like we were talking about before. And I got to, this point where when I started becoming myself again, I wanted to reconnect with it because it was such a big part of me before. And, I think I had to stop because I was so attached to my writing and what it was. And it was all really dark before. It was, pulling on people's heartstrings in a very, it was such an emotional way, but it was pulling on all of them in a negative way, kind of. It was, you would read my poem, and although it was beautiful, it was sad. It was like a sad movie where, like Marley and Me, I don't know if you've seen that movie, the dog dies and you just can't help but cry. Like, it's just, that was my writing before. It was like, even though it was beautiful and even though it was art, it was sad. They were raw. My writing has always really, reflected who I was. And, during those times I was just so young and lost. And, I thought that the world was evil in certain ways. Like, there was just something in me that I was expressing in my art, and it was just all coming out as sad. But yeah, so I kind of had to step away from it because when I would go to write, it was the sad stuff that was coming out at a certain point, even when I started to better my life. Because that was all I was used to, was going into the dark parts of my heart and putting that onto a page. And I didn't know if there was a positive thing or way to write. So when I started bettering myself, I kind of stepped away from it because when I did try and write, it was still dark, even though I wasn't feeling those dark feelings anymore. And it kind of started to create a weird conflict. And then I got too busy with creating money or building, that wealth like we talked about. And then, when I started to reintroduce it, it's what I said, where I was like looking at my old stuff and I was like, I want to write, but I want to impact people in a positive way. I want people to, hear this and either resonate in a positive way or realize they can change their life in a positive way, or, take what I'm saying as a tool that they can implement to better their life. And it was so relieving and beautiful that I could return to writing and have it be that positive impact that I wanted rather than just negative.
Wow. I was not expecting that. It's pretty fucking deep.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Wow. So what's the difference between writing from that space and writing from where you are now for you?
And by the way, there's nothing wrong with writing in that space too. I actually still think I was, at the time, I thought I was still changing people's lives. And I was. People resonate with that stuff. And people who are not in the best place need something to resonate with sometimes, even if it is really dark. I think that just where I'm at in life, rather than have people resonate with me for being dark, like I was saying, I just really value being able to help someone upgrade their own life in some way. You know what I mean? Really bring the positivity out in someone rather than having them resonate in something that's sad. And just coming from that place, it feels so empowering. I feel like I'm empowering people
Mm. So it's just empowering with a different toolkit, because you were empowering before.
Yeah.
So now it's just with a different toolkit.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see how poetry kind of went into your book, your fiction book that you're working on right now. That's I've had a lot of fascination with writing fiction lately. I haven't tried, but the idea of creating characters and the dynamics. And I was talking to Erin the other day. She's part of your mentor group, and she wants to start like some writing accountability. And she's like, I want to write fiction. And I was like, this would be awesome. I think this is my chance to like write fiction with someone and explore fiction, because I feel like I have some wisdom to share, but I don't want it to come from me. Like, who's this David dude? Doc. It's like, no, let's just do it with the characters. Like, how are they interacting with each other? You know, what are they going through, and what advice are they getting along the way? And so maybe I do have a fiction story in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you definitely do, for sure. It's so like it just unlocks these creative parts of you that I don't know if you never know are there, or you're just tapping into them in a new way, is the way I'd look at it. Because, I know you're such a creative being, and so am I, but, being able to make out the entire story and not have it have to relate to your life is so freeing in some way. It really is.
So you are also creating an app and a business in addition to your book. You have your own business. How are these related to the book at all? Are these like all separate entities?
Yeah, I mean, they are technically separate entities, but it's funny because the book in certain ways it follows the beginning of my journey of creating this business. And then it runs off to as far as my imagination can run. And the main character is not meant to be me, but I just pulled a lot of inspiration from how I started this business and what went into that initial startup phase. But yeah, it's, again, it's about empowering people. It's about educating people. It's about, bringing out the light in people. I went through a lot of different self-development work, coaches, learning about conscious thought, how to change the way I speak to myself, how to eliminate my limiting beliefs. There was so much that I've had to go through to get to the human I am today, which I'm very proud of. And I feel like not enough people know about how to do it or where to find the material to learn about it. And that's really what we're doing, is we're bringing this material to the masses in a new way. So what the app is, it's called Live Aligned. And the idea is to live aligned with your true self, the person you want to be, have your actions and, thoughts align with that person you want to be. And there's a lot of different functions to the app. The company was created about a year ago. I have a co-founder who is a mobile app developer. We have pretty much created the app and all the functionality and design. We're at the final stages, the last push to launch, which we're really excited. And we just brought on all of these incredible coaches as partners who are going to be teaching courses on the app. And I'm so excited for it.
So I kind of want to go back real quick to your sobriety, because there was this is the con of not writing down questions ahead of time, because they come in and then you just lose them. But with sobriety, you removed things from your life to improve your life, addition by subtraction. Mm-hmm. But what did you replace those with? What was there a
question?
Yeah, because I mean, I think one of the first things I told you when I met you was like, I've been thinking about going sober for a while. And spoiler alert, I haven't. But I don't think I abuse substances the way I did in the past, for sure. I think poetry has done a lot to help with that. But what's something that worked for you that you introduced into your life to help make your sobriety successful and more intentional?
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, I'll say, if anyone's listening to this and does want to get sober, one of the first things I would do is go to a meeting. It's, some people are scared of them. I was scared of them. An AA meeting is a beautiful thing. And the second thing I would do is buy a book. I'm someone who books can change lives. One of the other things that I say, I say got me sober 100% was reading a book. So aside from Elliot and everything he did, I also read, I think it's Russell Brand.
I've heard very good things about his book.
Yeah. It's Freeing Yourself from Addictions or something. And it's the 12 steps of AA. It goes through that, but it goes through with him, his voice behind it and his experience with it. And it is, again, a story or his journey that he goes through. And it's just a lot more captivating. It's not that dry, but it still gives you everything you need. And the process of the 12 steps, once you go through them, I learned, it does help you with substances, but it goes so much deeper than getting sober. It is, so what it technically is the removal of character defects. Is what they call it. So you can do it for anything, really, and there's a lot of addictions that aren't substance related. People have sex addictions or masturbation addictions. People have, food addictions, which I have also experienced. It can go into anything, and removal of character defects goes so much deeper. It goes into these parts of you that you don't like. I had a lot of anger that I didn't deal with before. I had a lot of fear that I didn't deal with before. And, that whole process was so much deeper and so enlightening, so far beyond just, not abusing marijuana and alcohol anymore, that I would recommend it to anyone, even if you don't want to get sober. Like, the process is crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, the symptoms are all the same. All the vices are just symptoms. You can like focus on cutting out marijuana, but now you're going to have to focus on cutting out beer. And now you're going to have to focus on cutting out porn. And so it's like, that makes sense. That is character defects. Like, what's at the root of it?
Exactly.
What was your experience with, you said you had like food addiction issues. What was that like for you?
So I grew up Italian, in like an Italian family. I'm half Italian, and, I'm sure the Italian culture is just like eat, mangia. I was always told, like,
probably very similar to Mexican culture for sure.
Yeah, there you go. And it was always more. It's always like, oh, you've had 2 plates of pasta, but there's only 1 plate of pasta left. Just eat it so we don't have leftovers. It was just always eat more. And I grew up eating like pasta for breakfast, and people look at pasta so negatively these days. I don't think pasta is negative, but that culture of just like eat more and be appreciative for it can be negative. And for me, I was always eating to gluttony. I grew up with food, loving food. I was in the restaurant industry. I cook. I have a tattoo of a fork, a plate, and a knife right there.
Nice.
It was just such a big part of me that I never looked at it as negative, but I've realized in the past, like when I've gotten sober for the month, or now that I've been sober for, quite a while, I was, kind of escaping into food instead of alcohol or weed. Right. Or even, in the past, I would even escape into books if I was stressed out or I wasn't feeling good, or there was something in my life that, I wasn't what I wanted. Instead of dealing with those emotions or dealing with that problem, let's say I'd go into my basement and I'd pick up a book and just dive into that story. And that's why addictions can be anything. I did that with food all the time. If I wasn't feeling good, if I ate lunch an hour ago and I was full, I was still going and getting a burrito and nachos and, chili cheese fries, like whatever I could indulge in that would give me that, quick rush of dopamine and just make me escape those feelings that I didn't want to deal with. So,
I relate. I think my biggest 4 in the last like decade or whatever, it's been alcohol, weed, food, and if I'm being real, porn. Porn isn't as an issue as it used to be, but I've realized that it's always my reality I'm escaping from. Like, what about this moment am I not enjoying? Am I hating and what's something I can distract myself real quick. And it'd be like a Rolodex, like what's next?
Yeah.
What's next?
True.
And so I wanted to talk about food addiction because that's something I think for a while I convinced myself I was. And I went to a few Overeaters Anonymous meetings, and they were like, yeah, so I don't eat this anymore for the rest of my life. Like, this is my sobriety. You know, like, you cut out alcohol. It's like I cut out cake and sugar for the rest of that was all their solutions. Like, no more sugar for the rest of our lives. And I'm like, I know I got a problem, but like, I don't have to step away from this for the rest of my life to be successful, you know? And I think that was one of the things that, I was like, I don't think this is for me. Like, there's a solution out there. And it's more of the character defects because, you know, I had left my job in May. I was very unfulfilled from, and I noticed that, you know, working from home, I always wanted to escape. It's like, oh, let me go get food. Let me go do this. Let me go do that. And then I had recently got another job, and I noticed myself slowly trying to escape my reality every day. And I'm like, what the fuck do I need to do to make sure I'm loving every moment of every day so I don't have to escape? Yeah. And so is that the playbook for you? Or I don't think that's sustainable because I'm still not dealing with it. I'm just making sure that I don't have a reason to escape. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So I kind of want your opinion on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard because everything, as you said, you know, these things are symptoms, and there is usually underlying things to all of it. And there's a lot of other things that come with it a lot of times. So, you know, I was having a big problem with, you know, I would go and eat a lot, and let's say I was full and I knew I was full, but I just wanted to escape more, and I would keep eating, or I would get dessert when I was too full anyway, or, you know, all these things. And one of the things that came with it was negative self-talk. Mm-hmm. And I almost didn't realize it at first. And then I had to become conscious of it, that every time I was doing this, I was putting myself down. And I was like, you know, there was two different things actually that was happening. One, I was putting myself down, and I was saying, you know, you're awful. Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep overeating? You know, you're never going to be, you know, the physique that you want to be if you just keep, you know, going into this gluttonous state. And then the other thing that I kept realizing I was saying to myself was I kept saying, oh, I'm just going to do this one last time. Or, you know, I'll do this for this month. I'll just live in gluttony, and then next month I'll be a better person. It's hard. So there's all these other factors that you need to kind of learn to deal with. And for me, the way I was speaking to myself wasn't good. If you're not speaking to yourself in a positive way, you're not going to have a positive experience, right? So I really had to deal with that. And then another thing is, you know, like you were saying, like, I'm never going to step away from pasta forever. That is like, there's pasta sauce in my blood. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an option. But I did have to step away from it from a little bit, because every time I made pasta, I was overeating. And I realized that when my self-talk got better, and, you know, I was dealing with these character defects, as we talked about, and things were starting to get better, that pasta was like a trigger to me almost, where when I would eat pasta, I would always overeat no matter what. So, I mean, it's honestly ongoing. It's something I still deal with today, but I do these diets sometimes where I step away from certain foods. I didn't have pasta for, 2 months or something like that. Going from like 5 times a week to, you know, not having it for 2 months. And then I reintroduced it, and then I had to be very conscious every time I was eating it. It was like, I knew I was playing with the devil. You know what I mean? Like, I would sit down with my food, and I would be like, okay, I know that this can become a negative experience and a negative thing in my life if I'm not careful. And I want to respect pasta, and I want pasta to be in my life. So I would be very conscious while I'm eating it. When I'm, you know, about getting full, I would just like even if I had pasta on my plate still and I was, you know, full, I wouldn't finish the plate, for example. I wasn't worried about, you know, if there's only a odd amount of pasta left, for example. You know, I just had to learn to live with those things. And because pasta was kind of one of those trigger foods, I just had to be so extra careful and conscious when I ate it.
So it sounds like we've been in a tangent. I don't think I let you answer the original question, but is that kind of mindfulness something that you introduced to your life to, I mean, sobriety doesn't mean mindful drinking, but like what's something you replaced that with?
Yeah, there was a lot that I replaced with. Everyone will have different things, but there are certain things that will become tools for you. And when you go through the 12 steps, this is kind of where we left off before. In the 12 steps, you learn about praying to a higher power, which I really, took into my life. A higher power, by the way, does not have to be God. It can be higher energies. A higher power than yourself can be as simple as an accountability group or an AA group or a sponsor or the system of AA, for example. I started praying to a higher power was one of the things I did. I started meditating every single day, sitting in silence, dealing with my thoughts. There are other practices like, you do often have to replace habits like you were talking about. So instead of drinking every single night, I would come and read every single night. Meditation ended up being one of the big ones for me. It ended up being like a main thing in my life. At my worst times, a lot of times I was waking up and like smoking weed right the first thing in the morning.
Wake and bake.
Yeah, seriously. And I'd just wake up and I wasn't happy. I was just not in a good mindset. And I thought if I could smoke a little weed, it would help that. But there are better ways to do that. Every day I wake up and, I work out and then I meditate for 45 minutes most of the time. And the place that puts me in my head, the space that I occupy, the way that I go forward with my day after that is just, it's so mindful. It's so beautiful. It's incredible. So.
Damn. Thank you for sharing that. You meditate almost up to an hour a day. Is that right?
Yeah. 45 minutes is usually like the minimum. Sometimes I'll meditate as much as like an hour and a half.
Is that all in one sitting or do you break it up into 15-minute sessions throughout the day?
So I'll usually do about 45 minutes in one sitting in the morning. 30 to 45 minutes. And then sometimes I'll meditate during the day if I'm not feeling my best or, before something like this where I'm doing something, I'll get myself in a better headspace by meditating. And then I always end my day with meditating anywhere from 15 minutes to, a half hour or something like that. So
what does meditating look like for you?
So a lot of times guided. I'll do guided meditations. I'll go on YouTube. I have a lot of different apps, websites. I've ended up sourcing like everything that I can because I'm so into it these days. Sometimes it's not guided, in which case I'll oftentimes put on meditation music just because it really helps me get in that headspace. And sometimes it is completely on my own. So there's no music. And it's really just quieting yourself. I close my eyes. I'll focus on my breath. I'll try and really just stay focused on my breath or stay focused on a topic or a word, abundance or love, let's say, or ones I often choose. And I'll just try and stay present in the moment, focus on my breath, think about whatever that theme is that I'm trying to focus on. And, as my thoughts kind of go away from the meditation or as I have thoughts come in, I kind of just analyze them, let them go on their way, and then like return back to my focus to the breath or to the theme that I'm trying to follow. So,
I have done some meditating, but for me, my priority. So say every morning, if I only have an opportunity to either write, meditate or exercise, like if I wake up late, I'll always write. And so I'll do my morning pages, and, my morning pages usually takes me at least 40 to 45 minutes of just like a brain dump to get going. But, I'm still not where I want to be. So like should probably switch that up if it's not getting me the results I want. And that was part of the reason why I was so happy you started this 5 a.m. club to get everyone going up and ready. In the first week, I was going good, and then just kind of fell back into my late night habits, and then waking up, I don't know, with only like an hour or less before work. But the effort has been fun, and it's reminded me a lot of because I feel like I mastered my morning routine during COVID, during furlough. Like, of course, you can master that when you got nothing going on.
Yeah.
And so the real test is when you have to incorporate it back into a routine, into life.
Mm-hmm. And, I actually just realized on this call, I wanted to bring it up, and then we just, went past it so quick. But I read The Alchemist, and it changed my life. And then I put in our Third Door group, hey, is there any books that are like The Alchemist, where they're, realistic fiction, or they're fiction, and, it helps you in some way? And you said, read The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. It is like The Alchemist on steroids. And I was like, awesome. And I get book recommendations all the time. I don't know if you saw my story the other day. I was unboxing like 15
I
books
saw
I just ordered.
I saw that.
Yeah, I'm reading so much and ordering so many books, and I have so many book recommendations. And anyway, I read it. I loved 5 a.m. Club so much. Completely forgot that you recommended it to me. And, as you know, then we started the 5 a.m. Club challenge. We have a small group where, I'm sending meditations daily, and we're all trying to do it together. And just earlier on this call, you said, it's like, The Alchemist on steroids. And I was like, oh my God, you were the one that started me on this whole journey. And I'm just now realizing it. And it's funny because you're in our, the challenge.
I'm in the group chat
that I created. And
that's so funny.
Completely forgot. Yeah.
I forgot I recommended to you initially too, because Erin hit me up. She's like, Adam's starting this 5 a.m. club. Do you want to be in it? It didn't even occur to me. I was like, hey, I recommended that book to you.
Oh my God. That is so funny. That's so
oh
crazy.
Man. Speaking of that 5 a.m. club, do you have time to bring that conversation into this episode?
Yeah, for sure.
That we didn't finish off yesterday.
Super into it, as you know.
So Chrissy had mentioned something about having so many things you're passionate about. And maybe not so many, but having more than one thing you're very passionate about. And so, Chrissy, if you're listening, I'm going to murder what you said. I'm sorry. But saying about like, how do you manage having new things come into your life, and whether you want to pursue it or if it's going to take away from what you want to do. Maybe you can add more context to it. I don't remember exactly what it is she said.
Yeah, no, 100%. So for me, and I mean, even in that conversation, I actually started to reflect on my own life and see that it was a little bit chaotic because I have so many things going on. I still work full time in real estate. I have a business on the side. That is my main priority right now. And I spend pretty much all my time with that. I read like crazy. I'm writing a book. I write poetry. Like there's so much going on in my life. So even from that conversation, I personally think that I have a lot to work on. And I need to learn how to kind of simplify things and kind of pull some things out of my life that maybe aren't needed. But at the same time, I do think that it's important to have, things that aren't just for money, like passions, like, writing or reading. I don't have any intent behind those to make money from them. I do it because I love it. And if I can make money from them, that is amazing. And I do believe that I'm able to. It's just, there are other things in my life that are the driving forces for my income right now. But when it really comes down to it, what I think one of the most important things are for me is focus. If you're focusing on 5 things at once, you're kind of not really focusing on any of them fully. So like me, especially with the 5 a.m. club, for me, like that has been huge in being efficient with my time and realizing how much time I was wasting and how much I can get done in a day. So I've been like breaking my schedule up into like little mini days, you might call it, or something like that, where, my writing has become a part of my morning routine. So usually, I do my morning routine, and then I write is like the first thing after my working out, meditating, and reading, and then I write. And then, I get ready for the day. I have breakfast and stuff, and then I kind of go into my next day, which is solely focused on my business. And most of my time today goes into my business. And it's like what I said about focus, like I put my phone away and I just like deep dive, like I only focus on that. Yeah. And then, do that for a few hours, and then it's scheduled, let's say I'll have lunch. And then after that, I dive into my real estate work. And oftentimes, where I work for a developer, it's not very demanding work, which is why I took the job so I could focus on my company. So oftentimes I'll set aside time to get into that work, and I'll just kind of do what needs to be done at this point. And then I often just dive right back into my company. And something I said in our chat, which I really believe in, I'm reading a book, and it says, your strategy, intention, everything like that can be great, but the real measure of what your priorities are and, what will grow in your life is where you put all of your resources, which is energy, time, and money. And when I kind of take inventory of what that is, right now, the most important thing to me in my life is my business in the self-development space. And right now, that's where most of my time, money, and energy goes. So I'm pretty happy about that right now.
I think while you were talking, your headphones might have gone out. It's a little bit harder to hear you now.
Is it? Oh, no.
Yeah. That's fine. How you said you took a job that aligned more with what your current plans were to give you the time you needed to work on the things you want. That is similar to the job I recently took. I took something I was definitely overqualified for, but I wanted something that wasn't going to be draining. It wasn't going to take away all of my energy and creative energy. I wanted to be able to have enough on the side. And this job has given me that. And even then, I'm not happy. It's like, get this fucking job. It's like, get this fucking job out of here. And it's funny because like since finding my passion in writing and what that can bring me and what I know I'm capable of bringing to others through it, like literally nothing else matters. And it's funny how you were saying of all the things that we want to do, none of them, and I guess this is the joke of the artist or the starving artist, but none of the things that I'm passionate about will have a direct path to wealth building, and so that's why I'm trying to look for the one thing that works with all of this that can give me money in a really positive way, and a really obviously getting money is always positive, but in a way that's serving me. And that's why I was saying, like, in how naive I am right now, I refuse to believe that there's not a way where it's not going to work out for me, and so, but I think I'm able to say that a little bit because they are all related. So I'll dive into it right now. Like those different threads that I said I'm trying to pull at, so they all end up being the same thing. Is poetry. Poetry is like my North Star. This podcast I'm working on, and something I might have mentioned to you before is I'm also in the process of trying to be a death doula, and some of those things. And when I'm learning more about death doula work, that's a lifestyle. I'm not going to fill up my calendar of like one person a month dying I have to work with, so that's going to be more like a lifestyle. And I'm like, what the hell can I do to bring all of these together and to make me money? And so right now, what I'm falling on is ghostwriting. And ghostwriting is actually what I was really passionate about before poetry. Like ghostwriting led me to poetry, because my dilemma with ghostwriting was, how am I going to write in someone else's voice if I can't write in my own? I don't even know my own voice, and then so introduce poetry. And now I have my voice. I know exactly what my voice means and how it's evolving. And I'm like, wait, why can't I write books for people now? It's like the best of both worlds, because I'll write the book, I get paid up front, and then they deal with everything after that. And so it's like, just give me 2 clients a year and I'm chilling, 2 to 3 clients a year and I'm chilling. And so, and so that's where I'm at. I feel like I'm at this point, like there's no doubt in my mind it's all going to work out exactly the way it needs to. And so I'm just along for the ride and seeing how it's unfolding.
I love that. And I love what you're saying is like, you can make it work. I love how you're saying there's no doubt in your mind that, you're not going to make it work. Like, you can make it work. And that's what I was saying too, right? Like, and I love how we have a similar story too about you kind of transitioning into something else to have, take back your energy. All of those are so important. We got to protect our energy. We got to believe in what we love, that we can make a living from it. These are all huge things. And a lot of people ignore these signs, right? They do what I was doing. They'll say, oh, I'll do that later. Once I make some certain amount of money, I can dive into that, or when I'm at a certain point in life. But life is now.
Now, why not now? It's right now.
Yeah, it's now. So we gotta protect those energies. We gotta protect those passions. We gotta make sure we're very aware of where we're putting that energy, time, and money. So, man, I love that.
I think that's a really nice place to end it.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna find a better landing spot than that.
No.
For anyone listening, if there has to be something on your mind just calling you out, if there isn't, read a book, listen to a podcast. Everything is a crumb. Everything is literally a crumb. There's not a single book that's going to change your life. I think the reason Third Door resonated with me and Adam so strongly is because of the work we did prior to that. Mm-hmm. We collected enough crumbs along the way to have one crumb finish the loaf of bread. It's like, oh shoot, we got a loaf here. That was a really bad example, but
no, that was awesome. I like it. It's all a puzzle piece, right? You'll get that to that last.
Exactly.
Picture,
and that's a lot of what Adam's poem said in the beginning. One sentence can show you your path. One page can show you your purpose. And I'm murdering the lines, but that was the sentiment I got from it. So the last question I'm trying to incorporate here is, say you wake up tomorrow and you forget everything you know about writing. You forget everything you know about art. But tonight, before you go to sleep, you can give yourself one Post-it note of advice from the wisdom you have today to help get you back to where you are right now and beyond. What advice would you give yourself?
That's a beautiful question. It's so on topic right now. I mean, so much of what we talked about was this, but I would say to be yourself. Do not hold back any little feeling, or do not hide from any feeling that you feel, but express it fully, openly, with love, and don't be afraid of putting yourself out there and empowering people in the way that you think is right. That would have to be it, because my writing comes from my heart, and it is so raw and real and so me that if it's just me being me, and if I can drop my boundaries, drop my ego, drop those walls of defense, then that is my writing. So
yeah. Every single bit of it matters. Adam, thank you so much for coming on. I'll have to update the podcast when your app comes out, when your book comes out. I can't wait for you to put all these things out in the world and to be a customer of it and to support you.
Thank you. I will send you my book as soon as it's done.
For sure, man. For sure. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been every bit as good as I thought it would be, if not better.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And there's magic in this world. I hope someone listens to this podcast and gets that little crumb, like you said, or that puzzle piece that pushes them closer to what they're meant to do. So
beautiful.
Thank you for doing what you do.
All right, everyone. Thanks for checking us out, and take care. Yo, thank you for hanging out with me and Adam today. I hope you get some value from our conversation. If you enjoyed hearing from Adam and want to connect, you can follow him on Instagram at Adam Avenus, Avenus. The links for more info for his app and his business Instagram would be in the show notes, and that's launching this summer. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating or review. Tag me on social media, send me a DM, leave me a voicemail at www.art2heart.life with the number 2. And let me know how you're liking the conversations. And I just really want to close this out by repeating a line from Adam's awesome poem. Remember that you are only one book away from your new life's design, one page away from finding your why, one sentence away from living aligned. Your new world is waiting for the magic to be applied. All right, y'all, get out there, keep following the breadcrumbs, find your magic. We'll see you next time.